celebrate or observe appearance day of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur. So I was asked to say something. So let me try to speak a little bit about this exalted person, this Acharya in our lineage, second on the altar next to Prabhupada, second in line. So considered he's our grand guru. So before I start, we recite the Mangala Charana prayers together, or if they're not up there. I hope you can see everyone there. There's some light bulbs on the way, but it's fine. Some extra touch. It says Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami appears.
Maybe we can take it out.
It's okay. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnana Jnana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vandeham Shri Guru Shita Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Radhanathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Visamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyari Paschita Deshitarine. I'll put this on, we can recite together. This is Pranam Mantra of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Namine Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daini Prabhave Namaha Madhyor Jwala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murta Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruda Pas Siddhanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gora Kishoraya Sakshatvaragya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodha Padam Bhajayate Namaha Namo Bhaktinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gora Vibhava Bhumestvam Nirdishta Sajjana Priyaha Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Shri Jagannataya Te Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarubhescha Kripa Sinubhara Prayavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavanaya Krishna Prema Pradate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gorata Shri Namaha Pancha Tattvakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavatara Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bhanu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Goragi Radhe Vrindavaneshvari Vishabhana Stutive Brahmavi Parihya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna everyone. So let's go to the next slide.
I have
Is it
already
there?
a question.
Question,
Yes.
please.
He has a photographic memory, right?
Yes.
So he was the one of the blessed devotees to remember all the literatures.
Yes, he was known as. That's actually the next slide. It's a little ahead. He was known as living encyclopedia.
He was so lucky.
Yeah, he had this. There's an expression. So we're gonna get there in a minute.
Okay.
Thanks. So just a few facts to get into facts. When he was born, so he was born there, Jagannath Puri, 6th of February. Which day is today? 22nd, 2018.
13.
This is according to moon and calendar, so it's not on the 6th February. So he was born in Jagannath Puri to father of Kirna Dutt and as we know him as Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and Bhagavati Devi Dasi, mother. He was 7 of 14 children, a big family, and he was given a name as Bimala Prasad Dat. He had all the signs of great personality, or as known as Mahapurusha. There are many signs of Mahapurusha. Depends which system you look. So, but there's like something to do with Jyotish, with astrology. As your I don't know much about it, but as far as I heard or read, is have all the classical planets in their own house, something like that. And there's more. All the signs were there, also the bodily signs. And when he was born, his umbilical cord was wrapped around his body, and as a Brahmana, so he was already showing the sign of a Brahmana, and actually was imprinted the way it was wrapped. It was imprinted on his body. That's what we hear. There's more to it. There's more to all these great signs of great personality. Once there was Jagannath Ratha Yatra, and Lord Jagannath, they were staying in Jagannath Puri. The Kedarnath Datta, or Bhaktivinoda Thakur, was serving in the temple. He was the main person there, and they had a house really nearby the temple. It was maybe a few hundred meters along the procession, where the procession goes from Jagannath Temple to Gundicha. And once Jagannath and Lord Subhadra and Baladev, their cart stopped, and they stopped there for a few days. I think it was 3 days. I don't know if anyone knows how long it was. I think it was 3 days, right? And there was a sign that, so they brought the father of Bimala Prasad, or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati later on. He brought the child to Jagannath, and Lord Jagannath dropped the garland. So, and then there was another great sign of Lord Jagannath showing the mercy to this personality, and then they moved on, so the cart could be pulled again. So Bimala Prasad was a name given by father because there was a deity there in the Lord Jagannath temple called Bimala, and she is internal potency of the Lord, Yoga Maya, and it's actually that temple is really small. I haven't been in there. Anyone been to Jagannath temple? By the way, you been?
No, inside, and it's not small. It's really big.
Small. Yeah. What I meant was within the Jagannath temple there are other smaller shrines, and the shrine of Bimala Devi is small, as far as I've heard. Have you been to? You know where it is? This.
Yeah, I've been to Jagannath temple and the Gundicha.
You've been there.
Yeah.
So there actually the Jagannath Prasad, just to tell about the significance of Bimala Devi, is it has to be offered through certain ways. It's offered to Jagannath, and then the last person has to be offered is Bimala Devi until it's considered Jagannath Prasad or Mahaprasad, Jagannath temple. So it's not alright. You can't go without or skipping this personality, Yogamaya Bimala Devi. So why he named Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, or later known Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, Bimala Prasad, as the mercy of Bimala Devi, because Kedarnath Datta was praying to her for Jagannath to send one of his own. Like he felt just to go maybe a little bit back in history, at that time in Bengal and in that part of India, it was, that's on next slide, yeah. There was like influence of so-called Bhadralok community. So there were some influential or intelligent Bengalis who got employed by Englishmen, and they were really smart and they know English and they were really intelligent. And so they were they got Western education and they're trying to kind of Christianize Hinduism and to change it to so-called Bengali Renaissance happened at the time. So kind of a new movement. So they were influenced by the British. So they're trying to condescend or put down the Hinduism and what's happening there. So of course, what's the best way of like having your own people, of your own intelligent people to convince everyone in India? So this Bhadralok, they were questioning and just changing the whole tenets of the religion, and they accepted Advaita Vedanta or the impersonalism as their religion. And there are many so-called reformist and movements that started. They kind of joined together this Christian way and Advaita Vedanta way, and this is and it was also propagated and still is really popular still now in India and also in the West. This Advaita Vedanta, which Bhaktisiddhanta was so strongly against. So of course our Srila Prabhupada we'll hear later on maybe a little bit more. I mean, besides that, there was also like a growing kind of disapproval of the Vaishnavas, who were like maybe a lower kind of like from lower classes. So and they had some Sahajas were kind of associated with Vaishnavas. So they were not seeing the Vaishnavas as so kind of classy or having like high class of status. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was part of Vaishnava revival. There was a group that started, but he prayed to Lord Jagannath to help him to send someone to do something about it. And so as the story goes, Lord Jagannath appeared in his dream and told him, "I didn't bring you him just to administer, but I brought you here to establish Vaishnava Siddhanta." And then in his dream, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, "But you have to send someone of your own. I'm helpless. I can't do it on my own. I'm not qualified." And then his wife got pregnant, and all the signs were there, as we mentioned before, the signs of Mahapurusha and so on. And astrologer that came, that's traditionally that astrologer comes, he said this person will be a great personality, a great leader. So that's why then they named the child Bimala Prasad, of mercy, realizing that that's actually answering to the prayers. And we call Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati also as a ray of Vishnu in this regard. Okay. Oh, we have a picture there of the big family. I'm not sure if you can spot Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Question? No. It's a black and white.
He's there.
He's there, so.
Top left.
Top left. Yeah, anyone else? What do you think? I know the brothers look similar, right? Two of them down there, right? With the mustache. I don't know when this picture was taken. I didn't do research. Actually, I'm not sure. Just asking you. I think maybe Mandragosh was right. Anyway. So here we are. Even he was named Shrutidar. That's the Vedic expression as someone who hears once and remembers, has the memory of hearing only once. So we know in Satya Yuga, everyone had this Shrutidar, everyone could heard it, and Vedas weren't written, and everyone just heard it once and memorized it. And there was not a necessity to write down, only at the beginning of Kali Yuga. So there are certain personalities, like himself, Acharya himself, that had this ability, because he's not an ordinary person, of course. So as it says there, he memorized the verses by the age of 9 or 7. It depends on where you read. But not just that, he could also explain the verses. And as soon as he learned enough Sanskrit, he started writing poetry, and he's just so amazing to hear this, how advanced this personality is. And but as a normal kid, he would go to school and was recognized there. He would be studying. As everyone was studying, he would study the Bhakti scriptures, and I don't know, math class or English class or whatever was there. And but then when he was asked the question about what was going on, he could answer it like perfectly, without him paying attention to the class. He was that kind of kid. He didn't care about the mundane education so much. He knew that easily. So yeah, he was known really as he was really excelled at Jyotish at school, and then he got this title, or the title he kept, Siddhanta. He was called Siddhanta. Later on, the Bhakti was added. So yeah, his tutors gave him that because they recognized his expertise at Jyotish, and I think he also wrote Surya Siddhanta. I think that's his work, and maybe a few other works on that topic. A few more things about his history. He was a tutor at the king's palace in Tripur. First he was secretary and then tutor when the king died. So he was like another thing I remembered, he was we mentioned at the beginning, remembering everything. His disciples remember when he was at the end of his life, he could remember exactly the books he read when he was a child. He read it once as a child, whatever the books were, and he could literally remember details, everything. So it's another interesting fact. So then his father, I deleted one. Something got deleted. I'll just try to remember. His father then established this Vaishnava Sabda, like association of Vaishnavas at his home, where his son helped him. He was the most curious about everything, so he was listening to the lectures, helping him with his printing press, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur acquired. He helped him to proofread, and he learned that he was around 12 years old when he did that. So he learned at a really young age, and he learned the way of how to write and how to communicate through his father. So he was his Shiksha Guru. And then also, forgetting to mention, when he was a young boy, he expressed interest or showed the interest by embracing the Srimad Bhagavatam when he was offered a choice. And traditionally, young newborn or at certain age, they presented few items to choose, so to see where the proclivity of that person is. So he was initiated by Bhaktivinoda Thakur but it wasn't like official initiation, it wasn't Diksha initiation, but Harinam initiation, which was a bit different than we have it now. And then when Bhaktivinoda saw that his interest is growing and growing, and it was a time to introduce him to a Diksha Guru, to a qualified person. To initiate him, he introduced him to Gorakishore Das Babaji. He was really renounced, and he was well known around there as a Babaji, and liberated Paramahamsa. So he was initiated by him. He got to know him in a year before he got initiated, 1900. And then, well, he went to see him a few times, and when he accepted him as a spiritual master and asked him for initiation, Gorakishore Das Babaji was rejecting him. He didn't have any disciple to then, and as you see, he only accepted one in all his life. So he kept on rejecting him. He kept on giving him different excuses. Sometimes he would say, I need to ask Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I need to ask Mahaprabhu. And then next time when Bhaktisiddhanta asked him, he said, oh, I forgot to ask him. I'll do next time. So he was kept on just evading this responsibility. Finally, he got initiated by the name of Varshabhanavi Devi Daitadas, or servant of Lord Krishna. There's also a deity called Varshabhanavi in Mayapur. The temple is on his samadhis. So that's his life of now. Preacher began. He dropped all the astrology, all the other interests, and at this time and before he embarked on this mission to help his father and movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he vowed to recite 1 billion names of the Lord, or 10 lakh. Is it 10 lakh?
Yes.
10 lakh. Okay. Because they said 10 lakh in India. So it says there are around 170 rounds a day that comes around in average. So now a question: if it takes an hour to recite, to chant 8 rounds, how many hours did he spend reciting or chanting the mantra? We have how many? 20? Anyone else? How many hours do you think? By hour kind of calculations. If you chant 8 rounds in an hour?
Depends how fast you chant it.
Depends, but let's say it's 8. How many hours he had to sleep? He had left to sleep. I know, I think it's, if no one can calculate, I think he had 3 hours to sleep. He finished, or maybe 3.5 or 4 if he was fast chanter.
21 hours and 15 minutes.
20 hours and 50.
15 minutes.
Without
stopping.
Without stopping. If you chant 8, it's like, you chant quite fast, like, 8 rounds. I mean, I do.
Maybe he didn't have to sleep.
I think he slept a little bit. But maybe sometimes he didn't. Then 10 years it took him, a little bit more than 9 years, almost 10 years it took him to finish the vow. And he was there in Mayapur, in small small kutir, a small room on his own, and he just stayed there. And his followers, he didn't have disciples that time. They were bringing him prasadam. Whatever he got, he got. If he didn't get, he didn't get. The water was dripping in. The story goes that the water starts, the rainwater starts dropping on his head there, and he just, I don't know, took umbrella, just continued chanting. Yeah, someone brought umbrella. Yes, he didn't have it. So it shows the level of determination of chant. So like a big breakthrough, so to speak, breakthrough was the last point there, Brahmana versus Vaishnavas, when his father was asked to come and represent Vaishnavas at certain congregation or certain conference. I mean, he got sick, so he couldn't come. He sent his son, and his son was well versed enough and experienced enough and advanced enough to come. So that was his first that kind of presentation he did. Like, they didn't really know him so well, besides maybe just in the local scene in Mayapur. And he presented that, which was also then a later basis of his Gaudiya Math mission. So he presented that he first glorified the Brahmanas. There was like they were actually discussing about if the non-Brahmanas, or those who are initiated as Vaishnavas but not being like Brahmanas by birth, can worship the Shalingram Shila. And another thing was, there's two big questions they had to decide together. And he was there to represent the Vaishnavas, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and he, long story short, he defeated them by quoting the many shlokas from the scriptures, and they were left speechless. They accepted defeat, or they accepted his victory, scriptural victory. So it was a big kind of tumult in the audience. He was just recognized in that moment as a great personality, as a great acharya, by defeating everyone there. It was really a big thing. There was all the Brahmanas were there, and they were long faces, and so everyone rushed there to touch the feet. Someone like that, someone who just did something like so incredible, defeating all the established ways. But it was a big, almost like a riot. They were trying to get. It was, in India, it was like thousands of people trying to get there at once. It was so someone just figure out how this is going to be dispelled, this crowd, or they'll be satisfied. So he brought, the thing was, some brahmachari brought a tub of water, so they dipped his feet in and he just sprinkled it, throw this water on the crowds, and they were in ecstasy. So they could then go, because they got there. That water, the blessings from the feet, they basically touched his feet by the water that washed or touched Bhaktisiddhanta's feet. But although the victory, he faced many oppositions. It was quite serious, because they even wanted to kill him. The Brahmanas conspired there. They wanted to kill him because they didn't want to lose their position, their control. So they bribed the police there in that region, and it was a big bribe. I don't know the number, but it was a big bribe. And police, usually they take bribe there, But they didn't take the vow. They said they couldn't. They knew already who Bhaktisiddhanta was, or at least they know he was a charya and he's a great sadhu. So they refused. They came actually, whoever from police came and explained this to explained and apologized. Actually, just explained the situation. Said this is what happened, and we're not gonna go with it. So I just want to let you know that what's happening, and yeah. So. So what is next? Alright. So he became first sannyasi in our lineage. It's a bit controversial. I'm not going to talk about it. Basically, he was the first one, so someone had to initiate him. There was no sannyasi before in our lineage. That was done through a picture of Gorakeshwaradas Babaji. So not qualified to speak about that. He soon started Gaudiya Math mission in Kolkata, in Ultardanga, and he continued in the same spirit, opening temple after temple. He got many disciples, many sannyasis who he sent to preach throughout the India and also abroad, in three places outside. Anyone knows where's Rangoon?
Rangoon is in Russia.
Russia? Okay. And he established this printing press. They actually were moving the printing press from Kolkata to Mayapur, to Krishnanagar, and this was their center or heart and soul of the Gaudiya Math. Like he said to our Srila Prabhupada, he said, if you ever make any Lakshmi, print books. Yes.
It's in Myanmar.
Myanmar, yes, it's in Burma. So yeah, that was actually he took sannyas already at that time. His spiritual master, yes, of course, like I said, spiritual master already left the planet. Gorakeshwaradas Babaji, his father, left the planet. He felt great responsibility. He was by himself. He felt by himself, and he had lots of opposition, like we said, and lots of issues to deal with. Like mentioned before, the Brahmanas, and there were pseudo Vaishnavas, or those who were taking things cheaply, and the Advaitins were there. Sahajas were there. All the upper sampradayas were there. So it was a lot going on. It's a big melting pot of lots of going on in the region. But he got the title of Flying Guru because of his relentless endeavor and fight against all the issues that appeared. So this is the picture from one of the parikramas, harinams, I did it. Maybe this is from Kolkata, it looks like. But he established first parikrama of Vrindavan for Vaishnavas. And that's the time when Srila Prabhupada saw him for the second time. It was the first time, it was in 1922 they met. Next slide. There it is. So Srila Prabhupada meets Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in 1922 on the rooftop of Ultardanga in Kolkata. That's in the first Gaudiya Math that was established and where also Bhaktisiddhanta tells him when his friend, who's Mulik, Narendra Mulik, brings him or convinces him, right, convinces Srila Prabhupada to go and see the sadhu. And he saw many sadhus at that time coming to his father's house, and he wasn't convinced. So he said, "Nah, another sadhu." And but his friend was insisting. His friend kept on saying, "But you have to see this sadhu. He's really something." So he finally convinces him. They go to this place, Uttavanga, and they meet him. And they pay obeisances like it's ordinary to pay obeisances. And before they raise their hand, Bhaktisiddhanta says to you are educated man, you know English. You shall preach this Siddhanta, this philosophy to the Western audience and all over the world. So Srila Prabhupada was of course surprised before even saying anything, before any introduction, before exchanging any words. He already gave him the mission. He already gave him the service to do, and that's quite a service. And at that time, Srila Prabhupada was a nationalist. He was following nationalistic movement to liberate India from the British rule, and he then challenged or asked Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, how can we spread this if we are under the British rule? How can we, if we are not independent, who's gonna listen to us? And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati defeated him, and Prabhupada says, I was happy. I was really happy I was defeated, because it was his mentality there. It was not absolute mentality. It was somehow limited by the sense of nationalism. And so Bhaktisiddhanta says, the message of Krishna cannot wait for a change in Indian politics. It is not dependent on who rules. And he said, the teachings of Bhagavad Gita are so important, so exclusively important that it cannot wait. And when they just paid the business and left, they went down these stairs, and we went just recently. I was there, just fortunate to be there, in this same place where Prabhupada was given the first instruction, or the main instruction, and the only instruction to do, and that's why we have this, why we are here basically. His friend asked him, what do you think about him? And Prabhupada says, the teachings of Bhagavad Gita are in expert hands. I think that's something, he said something like that. And of course that made the really huge impression on Prabhupada's mind, but he couldn't take on the mission yet. It took him actually 10 years to see him again. That was at that parikrama I just mentioned. And he was busy with his business in Allahabad. He when he heard about parikrama, it's going to happen, he couldn't make it, but he could only come for a day or two. And then when Prabhupada came to this parikrama in one of the places, and it was at the evening, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was giving the lectures. And when these particular lectures, they were saying, well, we have this deity such and such that you can go, and he's just there, and most of the pilgrims went to see this deity, and they wanted to have darshan of this deity. And only 10 dozen of people left there listening to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He was known to give long lectures. He would give an hour, 2, 3. He was kept on going. He was no breaks. And even then, in Srila Prabhupada comes there, And he was later recognized by him as someone who listens, who is attentive, and that's the major qualification that his spiritual master, and that's also when initiated him, he mentioned that, or he mentioned to others, he's really good at listening. He's a great listener. Showing or telling how important that is. So that made Srila Prabhupada then listen to this lecture. It went on for an hour, for 2 hours. There were a few sannyasis there. They excused themselves. They had to leave for some service, and he was one of the only left at the end after 3 or more hours of his lectures. And yeah, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati really recognized that, and how he paid attention, really close attention all the time. And soon after, in 1932, it was a month after this parikrama, there's another program was there at another of the mats, of Gaudiya mat. He got initiated. That was their third meeting, and he was initiated as Abhay Charanavinda Das Adhikari, later known as Srila Prabhupada or A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm back. So yeah, I just mentioned this Ultadanga was. I was there recently. It's a building that's now under construction. I'm just mentioning it's been acquired by ISKCON, and it has this status of archaeological, some status. They have to keep actually the building as it was, so they're renovating it to be the same as it was that time as this first Gaudiya mat was there. So we just witnessed the whole site of lots of work, and we were shown the steps where the Prabhupada made these steps of the important step, when he also mentions in his writing the steps he took before, or steps he taken down after he was given this first instruction, and the roof where they met. It was just a rooftop. It was one-story building, and this is. This is our workers there. This was a month ago. It's all this stone, and they were showing us they're using all the natural ingredients, no cement. They're all using spices, even Ayurvedic spices in their mortar and all that. So it's kind of old traditional way of building. So they're using also this traditional way of rebuilding as the place looked. And that's the last letter that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wrote to Prabhupada, and it reads, "I have every hope that you can turn yourself into a very good English preacher if you serve the mission to inculcate the novel impression of Lord Chaitanya's teachings to the people in general, as well as philosophers and religionists." This is one excerpt from. So he then Prabhupada then recognized this is the same instruction, and he has given at their first meeting 10 years, not more than 15 years ago, or 14 years ago, and that was confirmation for him that really he needs to take on this mission. He felt himself, Srila Prabhupada, not qualified. He felt he was just like Grihastha. Everyone, they had they were these big sannyasis there who could do much more, he thought, and have much more influence over people. But then he got it as his really like confirmation, and he started arranging his life, Srila Prabhupada, to start following and exercising this instruction. It took him another few decades too, but he never forgot that those instructions of his spiritual master. So, at the end, just mentioned Bhaktisiddhanta then left the planet. Soon after he wrote this letter. It was a few months after. It was a month after. A month after he wrote this letter, he left. And an interesting thing was his last days of his life, he was reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, of course chanting. And when doctor visited him, he wanted to give him some medicine. Bhaktisiddhanta's head was protesting. He said, "Why are you disturbing me in this way?" He said, "Simply chant Hare Krishna, that's all." He just wasn't really into getting any injections, and it's not gonna save him. Didn't want to be saved. And then one of his last things he said to his disciples, he said to preach these teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and our goal is to become a dust of the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Raghunath Goswamis. That's what he says. He says dust of the Rupa and Raghunath Goswami. And he also said to cooperate. He should work together under your guidance of your spiritual master and Goswamis. And he also advised to live without quarrel, without hypocrisy, and despite all the criticism, despite everything, all the obstacles that will come, you should not be disappointed, and you should not give up your service. So just for the end, there's a few things a few of the quotes he wrote. No, I'm not going to read them. Maybe I read one of them. Anyone would like to read? We can all read one of the quotes. If anyone would like to. Maybe the first one can you see? The first one. Life is for the glorification of topics of Hari. If that is stopped, then what need is there to carry on life? Anyone would like to read next one?
Every spot on earth where discourses on God are held is a place of pilgrimage.
You cannot appreciate transcendental matters with the reasoning of the world. It is sheer nonsense to decry them with the measuring stick to your intellect.
Be indifferent to bazaar gossips. Stick firmly to your cherished goals. No lack or impediments of the world will ever stand in your way.
Chant the Mahamantra loudly and with attachment in the holy name. This will drive away inertia, worldly evils and pests.
We are put to test and trial in this world. Only those who attend the kirtana of the devotees can succeed.
Okay, thank you. The last thing for today, maybe we can sing. That's the song, one of the songs he wrote. And this song is sang every day at Gaudiya Mats. Not sure anyone can play harmonium. John, can you? Krishna hoite chatur mukha, hoy Krishna seva mukha. Anyone else? This melody is traditional. No.
No.
So none is not here. So we'll do without. I know someone can play Mridanga or I can play. You can sing together. Yeah?
I'm just trying to guess with you.
You think you can play?
Huh?
Yeah.
No,
You can't.
it's too difficult.
Let's do it without. You play Mridanga. We can just chant together. We don't have to do call and response. We just do all in one voice. Look. I'll start and you just catch up. Krishna hoite chatur mukha, Hoy Krishna Sevon Mukha Brahma Hoite Naradera Mati Narada Hoite Vyasa Madhva Kohe Vyasa Dasa Purna Prajna Padman Bhagati Viharani Madhava Vamse Akshobhyaya Paramahamse Shishya Boli Angikara Kore Akshobhyaya Shishya Jaya Tirtanama Parichaya Taradasya Jnana Sindhu Tore Taha Hoite Dayanidhi Taradasa Vidyanidhi Rajendra Hoilo Taha Hoite Tahara Korajaya Dharmana Mekarichaya Parampara Jano Balo Bhakte Jaya Dharma Dasye Kati Shri Purushottama Jati Mahate Brahmanya Tirtha Suri Vyasa Tirtha Taradasa Lakshmi Pati Vyasa Dasa Tahe Harte Madhavendra Puri Madhavendra Puri Vara Shishya Vara Shirishvara Nityanandra Shri Advaita Vibhu Ishvara Puri Kedanya Korile Shri Chaitanya Jagat Guru Gora Mahaprabhu Mahaprabhu Shri Chaitanya Radha Krishna Naheranya Rupanuga Janera Divana Vishwambara Priyankara Shri Swarupa Damodara Shri Goswami Rupa Sanatana Rupa Priya Mahajana Jivara Gunatana Tara Priya Kavi Krishna Rasa Krishna Rasa Priya Vara Narottama Seva Para Jara Pada Vishwanatha Asha Vishwanatha Bhakta Sata Baladeva Jagannatha Tara Priya Shri Bhakti Vinoda Mahabhagavata Vara Shri Gora Kishora Vara Hari Bhajanete Jamora Ihara Paramahamsa Gorange Anija Vamsha Tadera Charane Mama Vaudashina Namete Kritandina Shri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Shri Varshavana Vivara Sada Sevya Sevakara Tahara Daita Dasanama Tara Prada Pracharato Shri Bhakti Vedanta Namo Patita Janetero Yadama Patita Janetero Yadama Patita Janetero Yadama. Maybe someone was thinking how he included himself here, but this last, and also there's our Srila Bhaktisiddhanta in the last verse, so that was added later. So it's not he wrote everything, but later the disciples were adding more verses, including themselves. Okay, before we get into more chanting and celebration, feasting. Yeah, we can. I don't know. Maybe it's a lot to read. Would you like to read the? Yes. Okay. Let's read. We can also go. I'll do the first one, then we can go to Samuel before we each read the line of the translation of the song. So, in the beginning of creation, the science of devotional service was received by the four-headed Brahma from the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. Devarshi Narada's understanding of this divine science was obtained from Brahma. The great sage Krishna, Dvaipayana Vyasa, who was empowered to compile the Vedic literatures, became a disciple of Devarshi Narada. Sripad Madhvacharya, the founder of the Shuddha Advaita school of Vedanta philosophy, who visited Vyasadeva at Badrik Ashram in the 13th century to learn from him Vedanta philosophy, calls himself a servant of Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa. Purna Pragya Tirtha, or Madhva, is the guru and sole refuge of Padmanabha Tirtha.
The two principal disciples of Madhva are Nihari Tirtha and Madhava Tirtha. Madhava Tirtha accepted the great Paramahamsa Akshobhya Tirtha as a disciple. The principal disciple of Akshobhya Tirtha was known as Jaya Tirtha. Jaya Tirtha's service was for his disciple Gyanasindhu.
Dayanidhi received the science of devotional service from Gyanasindhu, and the servant of Dayanidhi was Vidyadhiraja Tirtha. Rajendra Tirtha became a disciple of Vidyadhiraja Tirtha. Rajendra Tirtha's servant was known as Jayadharma or Jayadvaja Tirtha. In this way, you should properly understand this disciplic succession.
The great sannyasi Sri Purushottam Tirtha received his knowledge in the service of his guru. Vidyadhvaj Tirtha Jayadharma, the principal disciple of Purushottam Tirtha, was Subramanya Tirtha. His servant was the great Vyasa Tirtha Vyasaraya. Vyasa Tirtha's servant was Lakshmipati Tirtha, whose disciple was Madhavendra Puri Goswami.
The chief disciple of Madhavendra Puri was Ishwar Puri, and two of his other disciples were the renowned incarnations of Godhead, Sri Nityananda and Advaita Acharya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the spiritual preceptor of all the worlds, made Ishwar Puri greatly fortunate by accepting him as his spiritual master.
Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya is not different from Sri Radha and Krishna, and is the very life of those Vaishnavas who follow Sri Rupa Goswami. Vishwarupa, Damodara Goswami, Rupa Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami were the givers of great happiness to Vishwambara, Sri Chaitanya. Those great souls.
Who will do that?
I'm just guessing for the first word.
Okay, sorry. I'll do it. The great souls Jiva Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami became very dear to Rupa Goswami. Jiva Goswami was a disciple of Rupa Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami, a disciple of Advaita Acharya's disciple Yadunandan Acharya, was accepted by Rupa and Sanatan as their third brother. Raghunath Das Goswami's beloved student was Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Krishnadas Kaviraj was an intimate friend of Lokanath Goswami. They lived together in Vrindavan and always discussed the topics of Krishna with one another. Lokanath Goswami, a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit, had only one disciple, whose name was Narottam Das. Narottam Das was always engaged in the service of his guru, and he also engaged himself in the service of his guru's intimate friend. Thus, he became very dear to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. To serve the feet of Narottam Das Thakur was the only desire of Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur, who was the fourth Acharya in disciplic succession from Narottam Das. Anyone? 8? Any takers?
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was the Shiksha Guru, instructing spiritual master of Baladev Vidyabhushan, to whom he taught the precepts of Srimad Bhagavatam. Jagannath Das Babaji was a very prominent Acharya after Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan and was the beloved Shiksha Guru of Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's intimate friend and associate was the eminent Mahabhagavat Sri Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, whose sole joy was found in Hari Bhajan. This tree?
Great. Saint
Great.
Yeah.
Saint Vaishnavas are all Paramahamsas, or devotees of the highest order, and they are all part of the Lord Gauranga's own spiritual family. Their holy feet are my refuge. I have no real interest in devotional services, and I am a poor and lowly Sridhari Sanyai named Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati.
The renowned Sri Varshabhanavi Daita Das, the initiated name of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, is also engaged in the service of his spiritual master. Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, his foremost disciple, preacher is Sri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who has spread the message of Lord Chaitanya throughout the world and is thus a reservoir of mercy and compassion for all fallen souls.
Just a note, a correction. The 9 verses were.
For me, it's also I have no real.
Yes, he speaks in the first person, so we see now. So it's my lack of preparation. He includes himself as the poor and lovely sannyasi in the disciplic succession. But the 9a, which it's been added later, not to. So this comes to an end. Continuous question.
This is the usual way how they write poems. They put their signature. The poet puts his signature as he says, "I'm a poor sannyasi, this and this, saying this and this in this song." Like all these songs, Vaishnava songs, you know, like Narottam always includes. He's always signed in every song by putting his name Narottam, and also Bhaktivinoda Thakur also was doing this. As like the last words, like there it is. We know that they go around. This is how he meditates. So it's a usual thing. Yeah, they include their name, but they put it in the song. So
as a signature. Yeah, correct. Thank you. Thank you for correcting or adding. I was forgetting that. Thanks a lot, everyone. So I'm not accepting any questions, just thank you very much. You can read. There's a whole lot of like written like 3 books, huge books of Bhaktikash Swami. He's like he made like huge exploration or investigation of his life of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So it's a great read. It's a great read. If you have ever time and if you're inspired, you can read that. You can't get it here yet over there. Thank you very much. Let's continue. No, we don't have. We have one volume 2 only. 2 volumes got missing. Got legs. So thank you very much. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Maharaj ki Jai. Thank you.
Amanda-vikrama ki Jai.
Sure, Prabhupada.